everybody. We are here on day 2 of our Freedom Means Affordable Cars with some little background off our microphone. Here with Jameson Greer from USTR and Lee Zeldin with EPA, Sean Duffy from DOT. The three of us, at the direction of President Trump, have been working on policies that are going to help make cars more affordable in America, but also bring more manufacturing back to America. If you listen to President Trump, that's what he cares about. So we want to talk about some of the things that the three of us are doing at the President's direction. And I'll start just with maybe a trip down memory lane. The last administration violated the law, and they crafted a CAFE standard, a fuel efficiency standard, and brought that standard up to almost 60 miles a gallon. Well, there's no combustion engine that can meet that standard. What this was an effort at an EV mandate. They wanted to force Americans to buy cars that Democrats wanted them to buy. This administration believes that the consumer, the American people, should have a choice in what car they want to buy, not what Washington wants them to buy. And so with President Trump, we have worked very hard, all different elements of rules and regulations, to open up freedom, because freedom also drives affordability. And so for me at DOT, we have worked on restructuring those CAFE standards, again, getting them from almost 60 miles a gallon down to 35 miles a gallon. And what that means is the automakers here are starting to think about how can we make different kinds of cars that don't have to comply with this strict rule set. Again, we want them to be safe, we love them to be efficient, we love innovation, but what do consumers want to buy? And as we walk through the auto show, we've heard from CEOs, from leadership, that they love what we're doing, because if you think about the health of a company and then you think about their workers, those two things go hand in glove. And yesterday we had a chance to tour a couple of United Auto Worker run plants, and as we went through, there was one common theme. One common theme, and the theme was they love Donald Trump. They love Donald Trump and what he has done to make sure that we are securing their jobs, but not only that, we're bringing in more manufacturing from around the world to create more auto jobs in this country. And that doesn't happen with bad policy, it actually happens with really good policy. On top of that, the president has worked at many different levels to bring down the price of energy. Right now, gas prices are as low as they were for the first time back in 2019. So now you have Donald Trump 45 competing with Donald Trump 47 to see what Trump can win to get prices lower. But when you have lower gas prices, that's putting money directly in the pockets of the American people, but also a lot of our manufacturing take up a lot of energy. And we drive down the cost then to invest in America because energy is cheaper in America, which means you have more dollars to invest in more plants, invest in more workers, invest in more innovation. So all of these policies come together to make America stronger, better and brighter. And the three of us will continue to mention, this is just year one. We are just getting started. And you're already seeing the impact and the excitement about the rules that are coming into play to make manufacturing, and especially auto manufacturing, great in this country. And so with that, again, both of these are lead players here, but Jameson Greer at Trade has done a fantastic job thinking through how does he use trade policy to drive more investment in America. And so I'll turn it over to him right now. Jameson Greer.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be here with everybody. Really incredible yesterday to tour those facilities in Ohio, making Jeeps, making vans, making commercial trucks and things like that. The Secretary is exactly right. In only 1 year, we've already made huge strides toward affordability. We've been cutting red tape and regulations that were not only illegal but unwise, right? We're trying to have a common sense revolution here to get prices down. Part of affordability is not just the prices, but it's wages. And during the Biden administration, average wages went down by $3,000 during those 4 years. In the first year of the Trump administration, the wage for a manufacturing employee in America has already gone up by $1,300. average private wages on a weekly basis are up 4% this year. So in addition to keeping inflation in check, bringing it down, the wages are going up. And again, that puts more money in the pockets of average Americans, and particularly manufacturing workers. All those UAW folks we met with yesterday who are working in plants that are the lifeblood of their community, that are the anchor of their family economies and their local economies. So President Trump is working hard on this. The tariffs that are in place have generated investment in the United States. The cars here are amazing. The American innovation and ingenuity is incredible, but I also really like some of the signs and placards you see out there. Stellantis, $13 billion announced investment in the United States. Toyota, $10 billion. Ford expanding their Avon facility. That's what we like to see, because that means jobs, that means money in Americans' pocket, it means higher wages, so they can consume more of what they're producing here in Michigan and the surrounding area. I'll turn the time over to Lee Zeldin, who's a champion. The president, I think he's the president's favorite. That's what he always says. He is a favorite. We're kind of competing, but because he's cutting so many of these regulations, that made zero sense for Americans, for American workers, or Americans' companies. And I'll turn the time over to Lee to talk more about that.
Thank you, Ambassador Greer. Secretary Duffy, it's great to be here at the Detroit Auto Show. When President Trump first called me in November of 2024, asked me to do this position, one of the key goals that he had for EPA is that he wanted us to do our part to protect and bring back the American auto industry. He wanted consumer freedom to increase. He wanted the cost to go down. And the goals actually were quite achievable, not over the course of 4 years, but as you just heard highlighted with Secretary Duffy and his work with the CAFE standards, Ambassador Greer with everything he's involved with the trade deals, this ended up being a year one goal to make big progress. When Secretary Duffy and I first sat down with President Trump in the Oval Office right after both of us were confirmed, in that meeting he was talking getting rid of EV mandates. He was talking about the CAFE standards, tailpipe emissions. He wanted to know every tool that we had that was available to help the American auto industry. At the EPA, what we did was we sent to Congress, right out of the gate, shortly after President Trump took office, 3 Biden EPA waivers that were given to the state of California that California used to create their electric vehicle mandate. Many states around the country ended up adopting this electric vehicle mandate. But Congress, when they received those Biden EPA waivers, they passed 3 resolutions under the Congressional Review Act to get rid of those waivers. Sent it to President Trump. President Trump signed it. As a consequence, California's electric vehicle mandate is gone. In all the states that signed on to California's electric vehicle mandate, it is gone. And the way the Congressional Review Act works, you can't even bring it back in the future. You cannot bring back anything that is substantially similar to the rule that was eliminated. The EPA under President Trump proposed to reconsider, proposed a repeal of the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding, all of the greenhouse gas standards on light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles that followed, as well as the off-cycle credit on that almost universally hated, certainly that Secretary Sean Duffy and Ambassador Greer despised feature called Start-Stop. All in one proposal. We just sent our draft final decision to go through an interagency process, do it quickly, and then finalize that decision for the American public. As Secretary Duffy just so eloquently said, we are just getting started. It isn't even yet the end of year one, although we are now just a few days away. If we could get all of this progress for the American auto industry over the finish line in year one, imagine what's possible for the next 3 years. But the tour that we just took, visiting with all these American-made vehicles where they are so proud of the investment, the new investment that they are making, the vehicles that they are able to bring back on the market, the more efficient, cost-effective models that are now available to the American public because of President Trump and his policies, it motivates me to go back to Washington, D.C. when we're done here at the Detroit Auto Show and figure out what else can we possibly do for the American consumer. So thank you to Secretary Duffy and Ambassador Greer for your leadership. Our teams work well together, and we're proud to have so much of President Trump's agenda. We're just even more excited about what lies ahead.
We're happy to take questions, but I just want to make one other point that Lee mentioned. The president has built a cabinet where we like each other, we work well together, we're honored to serve the president. And so instead of maybe in prior administrations, people maybe not working as well together, this cabinet really figures out where we can partner, how we can think together to deliver the most for the American people. And that's at the president's direction and his leadership. So I'm grateful we had a great 2 days together. Just a lot of people made a lot of comments to us at the facilities we toured. I think you guys would probably agree. The number one comment was, would you ask President Trump to come to our plant? Could he come? Like, they all want him to come, because they're all so proud of what they produce and also proud of what he's done to make their jobs more safe and secure. So with that, if you guys have questions for any of us, we're happy to take a few of them. If you don't have any, that's fine too. There's a lot of cars to go see. We're looking forward to that as well. Nope.
Hi, I'm Sarah Atwood with the Detroit News. This is a question for Secretary Duffy. Does Canada's deal with China on electric vehicles impact the USMCA, and if so, how?
So that's probably a question more for Jamieson Greer, and I'll give it to him to answer that. But again, Canada's a free country. They get to make decisions and determinations that they see fit for their country. Again, you've seen America make different decisions, but in regard to negotiating USMCA, I'll pass it to Jamieson.
Thanks. So we're in a review period for USMCA to take a look at that agreement, see if it makes sense for America, if it doesn't. I will just say, with respect to Canada, 75% of their GDP is dependent on trade with the United States. It's a country that is incredibly dependent on us. I've already spoken with my Canadian counterparts about this China to Canada issue. We have enormous market share in Canada, by the way. I think we'll be able to compete. Again, as the Secretary mentioned, they're their own country. They can make the decisions they want. We've made a decision to have tariffs on Chinese automobiles. The Canadians have now changed to a quota system, so they still have some restrictions on Chinese automobiles up there. I think we will still continue to sell into that market in a big way. I'm not particularly concerned what it means for us. Canada may feel differently at some point in the future. We're here to support American workers, to support American auto jobs, and to support affordability for Americans. And I think that we're laser focused on that. And as we go into USMCA negotiations, that's going to be our number one goal, regardless of what Canada does.
And I just had a quick follow-up. So Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan's governor, said of the deal, when we push away our friends, they go to our competitors. Do you have a response to her comment?
So listen, Canada, a few years ago, they put a tariff in place on Chinese automobiles. They did that. China retaliated against Canada, and they said, we're not going to buy Canadian oil, or canola oil, right, which is like a vegetable oil. And so Canada went over there to do a relatively discreet deal with the Chinese to change the nature of their restriction on Chinese vehicles so they could export canola back to China again. It was a decision the Canadians made. President Trump was asked about this yesterday. He said if they want to make a deal so they can sell canola oil back into China, that's their deal. So I don't know if Governor Whitmer had any of that information. She's a person who said, I think we should have tariffs. A couple days ago said, I don't think we should. I've got the president of the United Auto Workers saying we have to have tariffs. I've got every United Auto Worker we saw in the plants yesterday saying we need these tariffs. So I don't know where she's coming from on all of this, and I don't know where she lands on it. All I know is we're here to protect American automakers from Chinese cars or foreign cars or whatever. We want the investment here. We're getting it here. And I think at the end of the day, Michigan's going to really benefit from all of that.
I want to auto question Ambassador Greer. Can I just ask you, the president today said he might impose 10% tariffs on these countries that are not supportive of the Greenland deal. Are you going to have negotiations with those countries beforehand? Will that impact our deal with the EU? Could you see that being thrown out? And what happens next?
Thanks. So what the president has announced that he'll impose a tariff phasing in, starting at 10% on certain European countries on February 1st, and then going up to 25% at a later date during a negotiation period. These are largely national security determinations, right? I'm the economic guy. All that being said, whenever there's a tariff involved, I'm involved, we're involved, and we want to make sure that we're equipping the president to be able to take whatever steps he makes. With respect to the European deal, they have yet to lower a single tariff for us. They promised to do it. We've moderated our tariffs for them. They have yet to do it for us. It's winding through their process slowly. They have a legal process like everybody else. If I were the Europeans, I would probably try to silo this off if they can. If they want to make it an issue in the trade deal, that's really up to them and not us.
And Secretary Duffy, Administrator Zeldin, what do you think needs to happen to get more lower-cost vehicles? Right, the average new vehicle price or transaction price is $50,000. There are not as many $25,000 under vehicles. What, from a regulatory standpoint, can bring more entry-level vehicles into the market?
So that was part of our conversation today. And again, what this team has done at the President's direction gives more tools to automakers to produce more lower-cost vehicles. By the way, with better technology. That's what we want to see happen, and affordability is a key for the president, but also for the OEMs. And so, again, it's going to take a little bit of time, but that's what they're thinking through, and this is a great market segment that they want to tap into. By the way, we want those lower cost cars to also be manufactured in the U.S. We want those to be American jobs. But again, there was a lot of losses that these car companies had on their books because of Joe Biden and his team trying to tell them how they should make cars, what they should make, when no one wanted to buy them. You talk to auto dealers, and they'll tell you they have these EVs sitting in their lots forever. They can't move them because no matter what kind of incentives, they don't move off the lot. So a lot of losses were incurred. That makes it more challenging. They got to work through that, but that message has been cleared from us. And I think the automakers understand that. Also, we want a relationship where if people have good ideas for us of something maybe we didn't think about or how we could do something a little bit different, I want that feedback. Now, I might not always agree with them. We might have thought about it, but getting the best ideas, this is my strategy anyway, I want people to give me really good ideas, and then I want to steal their good ideas, make them my own, and then implement them and look really smart. That's the way this should work, and so we're all focused on that, but I do think you're going to see really great priced vehicles coming into the market. Just an alternative to Lee in 1 second. The average age of a vehicle on American roads is 13 years. Way too old. So it's older technology. If we have more affordable cars and more people can put a new car in their driveway, those are safer cars. That's what we want for American families. And that's why this affordable push is so critical. And affordability is top of mind. Lee?
When you ask the question of how do we protect and bring back American auto, if you ask how do we increase consumer freedom, consumer choice, how do we bring down the cost of vehicles and have more affordable options, this isn't a theoretical question of what needs to happen in the future. I would actually talk about what's happening right now, what has happened already. What we heard today, what we heard yesterday, and I have heard all throughout 2025 from these manufacturers, and as Secretary Duffy referenced with the dealers, when government policy is dictating to the manufacturer what kind of a vehicle they have to create, even though Americans don't want it, that comes with a cost. When you have to be hiring workers and you have plants built and you're spending all that time, energy, and money, and you're doing the research and the development to come up with a vehicle that Americans do not want to buy, that causes prices to go up. Our belief, I've heard President Trump talk about this often, is that if an American wants to go out and buy an EV, they should go out and buy an EV. And if you want to buy a hybrid, go buy a hybrid. If you want to buy a gas-powered vehicle, go buy a gas-powered vehicle. But the government should not be forcing, requiring, mandating that the market go in a direction other than what the American consumer is demanding. Now, as far as what do we do to make more affordable vehicles, it's happening already. Look at what is happening at the Department of Transportation and their decision on CAFE standards, the significance of it to benefit the United States market and the American consumer, to make it realistic and practical, to apply common sense. If you look at the policies that we're doing at EPA, working with Congress to get rid of the California electric vehicle mandate and all the other states that had adopted it, the work that we are doing right now as it relates to the endangerment finding and all the greenhouse gas emissions on light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles, listening to the millions of Americans who want us to eliminate the off-cycle credit on start-stop. You could just keep going down a list longer and longer and longer of actions that are already being taken. So your question is a great question. The good news is that it's not a question about like, hey, what kind of ideas do you have for the future? The best way to answer it is, what are all of the things that you guys are already doing? And if you need any confirmation, you can go downstairs, pick any of these manufacturers of American-made cars and ask them, how have the policies of President Trump helped your company? I would encourage every member of the media, if you have any doubt whatsoever about what we just said, go down and talk to every single one of the CEOs, the executives, the dealers, and ask them, okay, be completely honest with me, what is the impact of Secretary Duffy's action on CAFE standards, plus Ambassador Greer's work at USTR, plus EPA's work? What does that mean for the U.S. auto market? And they will emphatically, passionately confirm that common sense has been applied, the American public has been heard, and President Trump is doing the right thing to deliver on this mandate.